bring in Arizona Congressman and Bernie Sanders supporter right now, Raul Grijalva. Good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us, Congressman.
Thank you, Medea.
So,
appreciate it.
It's amazing how well Bernie Sanders is doing, raising $40 million in February alone. Before I get your take on his chances versus Hillary Clinton, let me ask you, Congressman, which policy out of Bernie Sanders do you think will be most helpful for the economy?
I think the policy where he talks about very directly investing in the American people, and that is around the issue of infrastructure and jobs. I think the issue of creating some controls and balances between the operation of financial services, primarily Wall Street, and the American people, and the fair share, that everybody should carry the revenue tax burden equally in this country, and that the top 1% and 0.1% shouldn't have the privilege of having the rest of us carry the burden.
Yeah,
Those
no,
resonate well.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to get to that, because I think the tax policy is something that I'm really scratching my head over and over again, because you say that he's talking about, the 1% needing to pay more. Now, he said 92% tax rates are not off the table. So that's what I find really, really stunning there. Do you think if the highest earners, including small business, were paying 92% of their earnings to government, do you think that would be helpful to the economy in terms of creating jobs?
Well, I think that 92% figure is not the figure that we're talking about. I think it was 92% is not off the table, in the sense that people that have been the privilege of, for the last 2 decades, of not paying their fair share are certainly called upon to begin to pay their fair share. Doesn't mean that that is going to throw imbalance, or that it is somehow inequitable for that to occur. The inequality economically has occurred the other way around, where the bottom and the middle class have had to carry the tax burden.
Yeah, I don't exactly follow what you're saying, sir. I don't follow what you're saying, because you're saying that 92% then is appropriate for a group that you say has not paid their taxes. Is that what you are suggesting, that the highest earners do not pay their fair share of tax? Is that what you just said?
I did say that, and I said that it's not unfair to begin for the highest earners to begin to pay that fair share now.
I guess I have to push back, because I disagree. I think the highest earners are actually paying 60% for the most part of their income to government. If you're talking about a small subset of that, hedge fund managers who have the so-called carried interest that are able to call their income capital gains, that's a small portion of the highest earners. I don't want to get caught up on this point, because it's a point that I bring up a lot, but I think it's absolutely 100% inaccurate to say that the highest earners do not pay their fair share, because the highest earners are, in fact, paying the most of the taxes in this country. Bottom line.
Well, but there is no dispute that the wealth concentration has gone to that 1%, and there is no dispute that there's been essentially a freezing of wages in this country, which has created the income inequality. There's no dispute that when we talk about income inequality, that we're talking about the vast majority of the American people who are burdened by the fact that costs go up and their income stays the same.
Congressman, I think you're identifying something that's very, very true about the United States right now, and very problematic for all classes of people, this income divide. But what we've learned, though, is that by policies of excess taxation, though, it limits growth, and we've seen that happen in other countries. Don't you think there are better ideas that we can come up with besides wealth redistribution? What about growing the pie, sir? What kind of ideas do you guys have about growing the pie?
Well growth is going to occur, in my mind, with the creation of jobs. It's going to grow with the raising of wages in this country, and so that the consumer base, the middle class, those who aspire to be middle class, will then have the purchasing power to be able to grow this economy, to help small businesses and to help large businesses grow.
But that's the point. How are you going to create jobs?
Wages.
How are you going to create jobs if you're stifling those who create the jobs? That's the point I'm trying to make. You're assuming higher taxes on small business and higher taxes on the highest earners are going to mean job creation. I'm assuming it's going to mean the opposite.
Well, I'm assuming is the trickle-down process that we've been working on economically has not trickled down. That's what I'm assuming, and that's what the American people know. What I do also want to be very clear about, that one of the things that the role of government is to invest in its people, to create jobs, to be able to incentivize people, and to be able to incentivize through policy, as economic and social, to get this country going again. You do not grow the pie by continuing the same policies economically that we've had in this country now for 2 decades.
So you think Bernie Sanders is going to be able to make a dent in Hillary Clinton's run?
I do. I think the dent's already been made. You know, at the end of today, there'll be, you know, another Bernie Sanders wait. He didn't win everything he should have. He's going to do well, and we're going to continue to the convention. There's going to be another wait. But there's been 3 or 4 Bernie Sanders waits that I know of in the last 7 months, and he's come back, and he's come back, and he's come back. There is 40 to 45% of the American people are looking at Bernie Sanders. They're looking not at him, but they're also looking at his message. And it would behoove people to think very seriously, not to, if you concentrate on the messenger, that's one thing, that's politics. But to ignore the message that he's bringing up about economic fairness and opportunity, about income inequality, about a social system that is actually works for this country, then if you mislead that, if you minimize that message, I think you're missing the whole point of what this Bernie Sanders campaign has been about.
I don't know that anybody's ignoring it, but I think the way to address it is very different on depending on who you speak to. It's very different if you're looking at Bernie Sanders' plan, which is higher taxes for small business and higher taxes for the highest earners, versus doing it through creating jobs, making it an environment so that small business actually creates jobs and hires people. And the regulatory environment enables that. So it's just how to get there. I don't think anybody's ignoring the issue.
I think that, well, the fact is, the track record is that this issue has been ignored. And that's why you have a campaign like Bernie's that is resounding strongly, particularly among the young and particularly among working people, is resounding so strongly because people feel that message has been ignored.
Yeah, fair point. Congressman, good to have you on the program today. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon, sir.